I think there are 63 to 64 students. What you will do, it is a high chance that many of you will design different machines, M1, M2, M3 and likewise for this. Now each of these machines might be correct. I'm not saying some of you will do mistakes or something. I will be able to find counter examples for it, but at the end of the day many of these machines will be correct, but many of them might look different, more number of states, more transitions or something like that. So is there any way to really bring them all together to a single machine? In other words, is there any way to see that okay, these machines are equivalent to each other, and also certainly they are equivalent because their languages are representing the same language, but how to check that? That is first question. And even if you are able to prove equivalence, can you find the smallest possible DFA? Right? If you are able to find equivalence, so there should be a way to find the smallest possible DFA for a given language. We were trying it for some of the languages, right? So we when we were starting the NFAs, we said that it cannot be less than this in some case, some number of states for some of the languages. But here in this lecture, we're gonna learn that given any DFA, how to minimize this DFA, and then we're gonna prove that once you minimized, you cannot design any DFA smaller than that. So two things, given any DFA D, we're gonna learn minimization. So you can design any of the machines, I don't care, but as soon as you apply this minimization algorithm, you will realize that all of you will get the same DFA. That's what I'm saying. So after minimization, if you get D dash, you cannot beat this D dash. You cannot design even. Forget about minimization. Once you apply the minimization, from each one of them, you're gonna get the same D dash, whatever the machines you are getting, right? Every minimization will give you D dash. The symbols might be different, but the number of states, the transition, there will be, you can say, one-to-one correspondence between each of the minimizations of these instances, right? So let us start with this DFA minimization, right? That is the topic that we are studying. Okay, so let us define, before really starting the minimization, let us define few terminologies. So there is something called equivalence states, right? No. So when we say that two states are equivalence, so given two states P and Q, we say that they are equivalent if, right, whenever you take delta cap of PW and you take delta cap of QW for any string W part of sigma star, right? The criteria is very simple for them to be equivalent. The criteria is that the both reach to a final state or both reach to I should say some non-final. What I mean to say that if delta cap PW is going to a final state, delta cap QW should also go to a final state, and in addition to that, this might be some QF1 and this might be QF2, still that's okay. So it doesn't matter if they go to the same state, that is not the question. The question is about either both reach to some final states or both reach to some non-final states. right? Is it clear, the definition? I think that is something very fundamental and very basic. You have to understand the definition, that we are not saying that this is not the scenario, that this is P, this is Q, and after processing W, they both reach to same state X. I am not saying that, sorry. No, this is not the whole picture. This is not the whole picture, right? The whole picture is, this is my P, this is my Q, and P is going at W to some state P dash, Q is going at W to some Q dash. Now, when I said that, I will say that P and Q are equivalent if and only if, right? P dash, Q dash, both, right, both either is final or both are non-final. They have to be of the same type. They should belong to F or they should belong to Q minus F. Is it clear, the definition? If it is clear, then the next definition that we say is about distinguishable. Now, just like we defined two states are equivalent, we can define two states P and Q are distinguishable if exactly one of them go to final, right, for some given string W. So, if P and Q are two states given to you, what you are saying that there exists a string W part of sigma star such that when you apply W from Q and when you apply W from Q, the states that you reach P dash, Q dash, right, out of P dash and Q dash, exactly one is a final state. Which one, it doesn't matter. So, I hope you are clear with the equivalent and distinguishable definition. Equivalent, both go to some final states, both go to some non-final states. It doesn't matter if they go to same or not. Here, certainly they don't go to same because one is final, one is non-final, but exactly one can be final. Not both can be final, not both can be non-final. So, is the definition clear to all of you? So, let us take one example here. This is small machine. Okay. So, this is 2, this is, let us say 3 state number. There is an arrow going from 1 to 2 with 0. There is an arrow going from 1 to 3 at 1. 2 has a self transition at 1. For 0 it goes to 3, and 3 for 0 goes back to 2, and 3 has a self transition for 1, right. So, this is a DFA, as you can see. Now, if I have to find which states are equivalent or which are distinguishable, so what all pairs do I have? I have the possible pairs 1 2, the next possible pair is 1 3, and the other one is 2 3. Only these three possibilities, right? So, what do you say? 1 2 is equivalent or distinguishable? What can we say? And if it is distinguishable, you have to give me a string also that distinguishes it. So, for some string, if you are saying that it is distinguishable, one of this the state should go to one of the final states with that string, and the other one should go to some non-final. Okay, so yeah, I think it's distinguishable. What do we mean by 0 1 1 1? Oh, you don't have to go there. I think if you realize the answer is even simpler. 1 2 is distinguishable just for 0. If you take w equals to 0, what happens for 1? 1 goes to 2, right? 1 is going at 0 here, while 2 at 0 is going here. So once 1 at 0 is going to a non-final, while 2 at 0 is going to final, therefore this tuple is distinguishable. What about 1 3? What is the smallest string that can make it distinguishable? 1 and 3. Or is it equivalent? 1 and 3. Is it equivalent? So if I say 0, it goes to 2, this also goes to 2. At 1, it goes to this, it also remains at there. So what should I say? And even for any string, at 0 it goes here, at 0 it goes here. This at 0 goes here, and another 0 it comes here. This at 1 it goes here, 0 1 it goes here, 0 1. So is it equivalent? State 1 and 3. Anyone who is of the other opinion? Everyone agrees that it's right, equivalent. The answer is no, it's not equivalent. This is distinguishable. Now can you tell me what is string? The answer is what is the answer? I don't know. I want to hear from somebody because it's the smallest length string actually that distinguishes it. Is it or not? One. Yeah, now you all are right. So if you take w is equals to epsilon, that is also a string, right? Epsilon is an empty string, but it's a string. If you take epsilon, this is the smallest string that you can test. 1 remains at 1, 3 remains at 3. 1 is a non-final and 3 is a final. So what we get from here? A tuple of final and non-final state is always distinguishable with the counter string epsilon. What about 2 3? The same thing, right? W equals to epsilon. So whenever you get a P and Q such that one of them is final, the other one is a non-final, by default it is a distinguishable pair. Why? Because with epsilon you can prove it. Now, so is it clear to everyone? Okay, if that is the case, then let us go ahead. Now, I want to find all the equivalent states so that I can club them together to really reduce the size of my DFA. But finding the equivalent is a difficult part. Why? Why finding equivalent is a difficult part? Because to prove equivalent, you have to prove for every string it holds a property. Can you do that? You have to verify, but for how many strings? Infinitely many. So proving that two states are equivalent, it becomes quite difficult, right? You might say, come on sir, it looks very easy, we have just tested. See, it looks easy when the number of states are 5, 10, something like that. But if I give you a DFA with 1 million states, can you still quickly find? You might not be able, you might have to pick a string of 2 million symbols as a length and then you realize that okay, these are equivalent or distinguishable, something like that. So that is the problem. Finding whether two states are equivalent is a difficult problem, but finding if the tuples are distinguishable is a simpler problem, right? And you understand it is like a binary answer. If a state is not equivalent to a tuple of a state, so it is distinguishable. So a tuple of a state can be either distinguishable or equivalent, right? So the definitions are like that. So finding equivalent is difficult, but finding distinguishable is easy. Why? Because you just have to give a proof of a counter string that for this string it goes to a final, it goes to a non-final. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna find all distinguishable pair of states, and for such pair we're gonna mark, and once you found all the distinguishable pairs, then what do you need to do? You just need to take all the pairs, deduct these pairs, the remaining pairs are your equivalent pairs, correct? So the idea that we're gonna use, we're gonna find all the distinguishable pairs, and then we're gonna take the equivalent pairs by deducting it from the overall pairs, all possible pairs, and then we will do something for reducing the size of the DF. Now, how we find this pair of all distinguishable pairs, a pair of distinguishable sets? This algorithm is called table filling algorithm. What this algorithm does, it starts with the smallest length string and it keeps increasing the length of the string one by one, and for every possible pair it is testing whether on this can it distinguish, on this can it distinguish. So basically in a given round, so we're gonna do rounds on all pairs, and in every round we're gonna check if it can be distinguishable by one length, is this distinguishable by two length string, three length, and we will start with the epsilon, which will be our base case. Again, it's a kind of DP algorithm, but more or less it is filling the same table and it is not using, so it is called iterative kind of algorithm, right? So again we will have a base case here, and what is the base case to fill the table? The base case is that if P belongs to F and Q belongs to Q minus F, I think the notations are clear to you, then mark P comma Q as distinguishable. Right, it's very trivial. What we are using at the base case, we are using the string W equals to epsilon, and we are trying to find all possible pairs such that P and Q are distinguishable. Now, what is the induction here? What we say that let P, Q are two states, and for some symbol, what happens if you take delta of P at A, you are going to R, and delta of Q at A, you are going to S, correct? So let P and Q are two states, and for some symbol this is what is happening. Now if that is the case, so if R and S, this pair is already known to be distinguishable, what do you do? Mark PQ as distinguishable. Is the algorithm clear? And this induction you keep gonna repeating iteration over iteration. Now, why we are doing so and why it holds true? Because see, if R and S is already known to be distinguishable, what does it mean? That if I have to understand this part, so what the crux behind this inductive step is that there exists some W part of sigma star such that delta cap of R W and delta cap of S W, one of them exactly go to a final. So exactly one is final. Now you can use this W to build a string to prove that PQ is also distinguishable. How? You can take the string W dash equals to AW. If you take AW, now what will happen? When you try to find out what is the value of delta cap PW dash, it will bring you here, and whatever is the value of delta cap of QW dash, it will bring you here, and you know that the same states are exactly one is final. So therefore, if W is distinguishing W is distinguishing R and S, so AW is going to distinguish P and Q. So is this part clear? Anyone has any doubt in this? So the algorithm is pretty much simple, right? Let us do a quick run of this algorithm on an example, just to. Okay, so let us take a small DFA. It's given in the book. So this is A, this is B, and this is state C. There is a final state named D. Let me write a bit bigger. Okay. Then there is E as non-final. There is F as a final state again, and then there is a G. So these are total 7 states present in this DFA, and now the transitions are A to B with 0, A to C with 1, B at 0 it goes to D, B at 1 goes to E, D at 0 goes to D back, D at 1 goes to E, right? E at 0 goes to F, F at E at 1 goes to G. Okay, F at 0 goes to D, F at 1 goes to E. Okay, F is also done. G. Now G at 0 goes to F, G at 1 remains there. Now C at 0 goes to F, C at 1 goes to G. Any transition is missing? 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 for F, 0 1 1 for G, 0 1 C 0. Okay, good. So we have 3 final states, we have 4 non-final states, we have all the transitions present, and this is a DFA. We have to minimize this DFA, but before minimization, what we need to do, we need to find our distinguishable pairs, right? So before that, let us try to find all the pairs. So let's take all the pairs. So you can just take upper or lower triangle of a matrix, right, adjacency kind of matrix, just to check it. So let's take A, B, C, D, E and F, and here you can place G, F, E. Maybe I should make a bit more spacious. So G, F, E, then you have D, you have C, and then you have B, right? So lines are not coming really nice, but that's okay. Okay, so this is what I'm creating for all possible distinguished pairs, right? And you don't have to do symmetric computation, because if a state is distinguishable to another, if you take the vice versa, it is the same. If I is equivalent to J, J is equivalent to I. So this is what table we are going to fill. Now we're gonna cross mark the states which are distinguishable. So what we're gonna do with this table, in the beginning, first iteration, we will use the base case to do the marking, and then we'll keep using the previous iteration to see that if for any new symbol, any new state is being marked as distinguishable or not. If at some point of time after a iteration, if checking all the pairs, if no new state from the previous iteration has been marked distinguishable, you're gonna stop there, because after that you are never going to get it. You don't need G here, right? Because if you x-axis, the reason being already G is there and G is already paired with all of these. So G with G itself, I have already diagonal columns I have deleted, and even the upper triangle. So this is a lower triangle. So A is deleted here and the upper triangle. You could do it for other way. It doesn't matter. Altogether, it is actually, if you say n square minus n into n minus 1 by 2 minus n altogether, those many entries, right? So now we need to fill it. So let us start with the base case. So tell me which all will be marked as so when as I said in the beginning, with the base case, which all we can mark. So A and D, okay, A and D. So where is A and D? A and D, okay, yeah, this, okay. What is next? Correct. All non-final with final. So A and D is one of them. A with F is also right. A with F, because A is a non-final. So with all finals, it is going to have this kind of relationship. Good. What about B? B is again a non-final. So the same relationship, at least it is going to share, so that it is distinguishable. What about C? C is again non-final. So the same thing. What about D? D is a final. So now D cannot distinguishing with G and F, but it is going to distinguish with E because it's a non-final. E is a non-final and F and G both are final, so again distinguishable. And F with G, certainly you cannot say. You cannot say. I'm not saying it is not. It is just in this iteration, when you are using the first iteration with W equals to epsilon, this is all what you get. Anything else that we missed or something like that? No, right? So we have captured all. Now in the next iteration, now we have to find, can we get anything more? So let's say that these black markings are the first iteration. Let's try using blue marking to find the new ones. Now which all tuples are remained, you just have to verify for them, because which is already marked distinguishable, you already found a counter string, so you don't need to check for them again. You have already found a string that says that okay, these pairs are distinguishable. So now what you need to do, you just need to check for which are not marked. So the first one is A and B, correct? For AB, can we find a symbol such that it is distinguishable using the inductive step? So now let's say A and B together. If I take 0 for both of them, where do I go? Where do I go at 0 for AB? A at 0 goes to B, and B at 0 goes to D. What happens? Distinguishable, right? Is it clear? So for W equals to 0, A and B are distinguishable. So I got a new marking. Now what about A and C? Again, A at 0 goes to B, C at 0 goes to F. So distinguishable. For what pair? A and C, again for W equals to 0. Even for 1, I think it should be holding, right? A at 1 goes to C, C at 1 goes to G. So you can use 0 or 1, it doesn't matter. But AB is not distinguishable for 1, because A goes at 1 to C, B goes at 1 to E. But you have to find some string, it doesn't matter which one. So for 0 it is distinguishable, for 1 or 0 it is distinguishable. I marked two things. Now A and, oh sorry, I marked A and E. Okay, there is. I talked about A and C, right? Okay. Now what about A and E? A at 1 goes to C, E at 1 goes to G again, right? So A and C, they are distinguishing by 0 or 1. If you are talking about A and E, you can again distinguish it based on 1, right? What about 0? 0 it goes to a final, it goes to a non-final. So again 0 or 1, whatever you pick. So A and E is also distinguishable, correct? Is it clear? Anyone has any doubt in this what we are doing? None? Okay. What about B and E? Okay, let's see about B and E. So now you have to check in one direction for 0, the other direction for 1. B and E for 0. So B at 0 goes to a final, E at 0 goes to a final. So sorry, I cannot say. It is not distinguishing because of 0. B and E for 1. B at 1 goes to E, E at 1 goes to G. So, oh, we got 1. So that's, so again distinguishable, correct? Now what about C and E? Let's check for C and E. C and E at 0 or 1, right? C and E at 0. C at 0 goes to F, E at 0 goes to F, okay. C at 1 goes to G, E at 1 goes to G. So we are not able to distinguish C and E at this level. I did not say that means they are actually equivalent. You are just saying that they are not distinguishable because of this 0 or 1. Now next, what you gonna check? F, D and F. D and F. D at 0 remains at D. F at 0, where does it go? Oh, it goes to D. Okay. So at 1, D goes to E, F also goes to E. So DF I cannot comment at this point of time. What about D and G? D at 0 goes to D, G at 0 goes to F. So both are final, so it's okay. D at 1 goes to E while G at 1 remains there. So E is a non-final, G is a final, therefore DG, they are actually distinguishable. What about F and G? I think F and G's are also distinguishable. The reason is which string? F and G. So G at 1 remains there, F at E, yeah, the same, 1. So 1 will also distinguish F and G. Correct? Oh, B and C. Okay, yeah. B and C, did we not check? Okay, sorry. Okay, let us check B and C. I forgot. B and C at 0, where does it go? At 0, B goes to D, C goes to F. Okay. At 1, B goes to E and C goes to G. So it is distinguishable, right? So B and C at 1, one goes to final, one goes to non-final. So it is also not. Anything else? So these two we already saw that we cannot comment at this step. So we again have to check it for one more time. Now because you got some new marking, so now it might be possible. But the answer is no. You will realize that even at this level, E and C, this two, C and E for 0, where does it go? C and E for 0, they go to C and E for 0, they both go to F. C and E for 1, where does it go? Both go to G. And the other couple is this pair is F and D. So D at 0, both go D and F, right? D and F. At 0, both of them go to D. At 1, both of them go to E. And because there is no changes to this, still we cannot say even in the third iteration. So first iteration was black marking, second iteration was blue marking, third iteration we were not able to mark anything. So the algorithm halts. You're going to halt in third iteration. Why? Because you were not able to discover any new pair in third iteration. So first iteration you try marking everything. Second iteration you should again check for the single symbol. What you are checking is exactly the same. That for 0, if you are going ahead, if the resulting are distinguishable, this is also distinguishable. Right? And because of epsilon, then we added 0, 1, we were able to distinguish well most of them. Now, if you get any marking in the third, you have to go for fourth, because the newly added marking might distinguish few more pairs. That is the whole reason. And if you try to see the exact distinguishing length for that pair, that will be marked in the third iteration. So the first iteration, it is of epsilon length, basically 0 length. In the second iteration, whatever distinguishability you have achieved, it is because of a string of length 1. In the third iteration, you will get of length 2. Fourth, you will get length of 3, and likewise. Right? So we halted here. So what does it mean? That we have found distinguishable states, and because these two we were not able to comment, and we halted the algorithm, right? So what should I say about these two? Are they equivalent or not? Yes, certainly. But how can you be certain? We can be certain if and only if we prove that this algorithm finds all distinguishable pairs. It doesn't miss any distinguishable pair, right? If you are able to prove so, that means whatever you were unable to mark as distinguishable, those are certainly equivalent. It should not happen that you were able to mark some partial set of distinguishable pairs and still some are missing, some you haven't marked. So for some state, it is always a doubt whether it is equivalent or distinguishable. So you have to prove that this algorithm finds all distinguishable pair. If the proof you are able to give, then by default the remaining ones are equivalent. Correct? So let us quickly prove that this algorithm always finds all the pairs. How are we going to prove this statement? The proof of correctness. Let us say that this doesn't, the contradictory statement. So what we are making the statement that this algo doesn't guarantee, right? for finding all distinguishable pairs. This is our contrary assumption, right? So we have taken the contrary assumption that this algorithm doesn't guarantee to find all distinguishable pairs. Okay, good. That means it doesn't work for some of the instances. So let's take one such instance. So what we need to do? We need to say that there exists some P and Q, right, tuple or a pair where in reality they are distinguishable but table filling algorithm doesn't mark. Correct? That's what is the contrary. I have just rewritten these words for some assumed tuple. Let's call these as a bad pair. What is a bad pair? Bad pair is something that it is in reality a distinguishable pair, but the algorithm is unable to find. So for given some DFA, let's say that there are multiple such bad pairs. I am saying, okay, there is a P1, Q1, there is a P2, Q2, likewise up to some PK, QK. Because table filling algorithm was unable to mark them as distinguishable, but these are distinguishable. Now, if these are distinguishable, what is guaranteed? That there exists some string W1, W2 up to WK that distinguishes it, right? If these are in reality distinguishable, so you should be able to find counter strings that prove that these are distinguishable. Let's say that these each strings are the smallest counter string for the distinguishability proof. What I mean that there might be a set of a string that can prove that P1 and Q1 are distinguishable, but I am picking W1, right, as such a string which is of the smallest length among all that can prove that P1 and Q1 are distinguishable. Same thing for W2, that W2 is the smallest again among all strings that can make P2 and Q2 prove that these are distinguishable, and the same thing for WK. So individually these are smallest to prove that these states are pair are distinguishable. Out of all W1 to WK, you pick the min of Wi, right, over all i's. Once you pick this, let's say that it is W, and the corresponding to this counter string, whatever is the minimum, the tuple is P and Q. So what is PQ? PQ is actually the tuple out of all bad pairs. It is that bad pair which is distinguishable by the smallest length string out of all possible. Correct? So what is PQ? I think that's something very important. You must understand. PQ is that bad pair. Bad pair means in reality it is distinguishable, but algorithm doesn't find it. So PQ is that bad pair which is distinguishable by the smallest length string among all bad pairs. Correct? I picked all, I took the minimum for each of them, and then I picked the minimum out of it. So PQ is such a bad pair. Now, everyone is with me on this? Now, the next claim that I am making is that W cannot be epsilon, right? Can W be epsilon? Can you have a bad pair which is distinguishable by a epsilon? No. Why? Because our base case says that the first iteration you're gonna mark all such strings, right? Good. So the base case guarantees that. So W cannot be epsilon. That is good. So W is what we get from here, that the length of W is greater than 0. That means there are some symbols part of W. Okay, good. Let us go further on this. So we realize that the length of W is greater than 0. So let's say W is equals to A1, A2 up to some A M number of symbols are there. I don't know how many. Now, if I leave A1 and take the rest as W dash. Now, what is the length of W is M. So, length of W dash will be certainly M minus 1, correct? Now, let's take, so what this W is? This is actually the smallest length string that distinguishes P and Q, correct? What does it mean? That when you take delta cap PW and delta cap QW exactly 1, right? Exactly 1 is finite. And W is the smallest string to do that for P and Q, right? There is no other smallest string to do that. Now, if I take this delta of PA1, let's say it is actually R, and delta of QA1, it is S. Now, let's talk about this pair R and S. My first question is it a bad pair? Certainly R and S are distinguishable, yes or no? R and S can be distinguished by W dash. R at W dash will go to the same place where you are going. So, delta cap of RW dash will come to the same place, and the same delta cap of SW dash will bring you here. And because exactly one of them is final, so based on W dash you can always say that R and S are distinguishable. Now, if they are distinguishable in reality, you already have a proof. Is it a bad pair? Can R and S be a bad pair? Why no? Good, very good. I think that's what I wanted to convey. So, you said that P and Q is such bad pair that it is distinguishable by the smallest length string. So, W is the smallest possible string that can give you a bad pair. So, when you get a W dash which distinguishes RS, length of W dash is less than M. So, certainly it cannot be a bad pair. If R and S is not a bad pair, then what does it mean? If no, the answer of this question is no, then R and S has been marked, right? Has been marked in some ith iteration. And if you have already marked it in by table filling algorithm, don't you think that in next iteration, I plus 1th iteration, P and Q should have been marked for sure? Because in the I plus 1th iteration, for P and Q, when you will pick all possible symbols, you must have checked whether R and S is distinguishable or not. Correct? But it is a bad pair. So, your assumption was that P and Q is a bad pair, but here we are saying that it cannot be, because it must be found out by our algorithm. Our algorithm might have not terminated before marking PQ as distinguishable, because when RS has been marked, certainly in the next iteration PQ will definitely be marked. But you are saying PQ is a bad pair, that means there is a contradiction with our assumption itself, and therefore we don't have any bad pairs for our table filling algorithm. Whenever there is a bad pair, you can again prove the same. For that, if there is a single bad pair, definitely that pair cannot be based on the empty string, it is based on some string of length at least 1. You take the first symbol and see which all places you are going from that bad pair. You will be going to somewhere. That cannot be a bad pair because you have chosen the smallest one, and that is only 1. And in that case, if that is not bad pair because it is marked in some ith iteration, so definitely in the next I plus 1th iteration you must have marked the PQ also. Is it clear? Anyone has any doubt in that? It's a very simple proof by contradiction, saying that yes, we find all the distinguishable pairs using table filling algorithm. And if so, what remains is that you take the remaining which you did not find, that will give you the equivalent. So here if you realize, F and G are equivalent, O and E, D and F, C and E are equivalent, and D and F. So 2 tuples we got as, right. So these 2 tuples are actually marked as, okay. So these 2 tuples, what is these 2? This one is CE and DF. Okay, CE and DF. Now next job is to really, okay, we found that there are, so given any DFA you can always find the equivalent pair of states by applying the table filling algorithm and then finding the distinguishable pairs, and then the remaining which are not distinguishable becomes equivalent pairs. Now what to do with these equivalent pairs? Now, so there is a simple algorithm that finds out how to use it, correct? Now the first algorithm, first step is discarding useless states. So what is the definition of useless states? Those are unreachable right. Useless states are those states which are unreachable from the start state. Simple. So all such states should be deleted immediately before starting the minimization. That will save a lot of time for you. Now next is, you should apply table filling algorithm to find equivalent pairs. Once you found that, then you have to construct block of equivalent states. What do you mean by block of equivalent states? It is saying that this Q is going to be partitioned into subsets Q1, Q2, Q3 and likewise, such that all the states within that are equivalent to each other, and it's a partition. What do we mean by partition of a set? Partition of a set is that if you take intersection of any Qi Qj, it is phi, and when you do the union of all Qi's, you get Q. That's what is called partition of a set, right? So what we are saying that you gonna construct block of equivalent set which will form a partition of Q. Once you get these blocks, then I think going ahead is very simple. Now, so how to prove that certainly it will be a partition? To do that, you just need to understand few basic properties, right? The first property of certainly it's a equivalence we are saying, but to prove that the relationship is transitive. What do you mean by transitive? That if P and Q is already known to be equivalent and Q and R is already known to be equivalent, so it will mean that P and R is also equivalent, right? Simple property. The proof is very simple. It's by contradiction. You can say that if P and R are not actually equivalent, so there exists a string that distinguishes it, right? P and R. Now, if P and R are distinguishable, so there exists some string that distinguishes it, and that string will certainly create problem for one of these sets. Why? Because if you use the same string for PQ, if this both goes to a final, then here Q is going to final but R will not go, because P and R for that string are going to exactly one to final, one to non-final, and the vice versa. You can say that if P and R, P is going to accepting, R is going to rejecting or non-final. So when you go for PQ and PQ is going to differ, so again there is a problem. So it's a very simple proof. I think proof by you can take a string for PR which is giving you that P and R are distinguishable. That string will create problem for the already established equivalence relationship between PQ and QR. Is it clear, or do you want me to write whole thing and explain? I think it's simple, right? It's a very simple and very small proof by contradiction. So if it is clear, we'll go ahead. The third point, construction of blocks of equivalent sets. Altogether what we are saying that based on the equivalence of states, we can place all the equivalent states in a set and that will form a partition, right? So basically all the equivalence of one type are placed in Q1, all the equivalence of the other type placed in Q2, all the equivalence of other type are placed in Q3 and likewise. For example, we got two equivalent sets right here, others are not equivalent. So certainly it means that if that is equivalent, certainly there is A is equivalent to none, so A is also a block. Again B is equivalent to none, so that is again a block. C, D, E, F is already done, then after G is another block. So there are total 5 blocks, that's what we mean. At place of 7 states, now we have just 5 blocks. Is it clear now? So you have to prove that this blocking, that putting all equivalent states together in a block or a set, that forms a partition. We are proving that. So to prove that, you have to prove few of the properties and understand. So I think transitive property is clear to everyone, or is there any doubt? You can easily prove it by contradiction. Now going ahead, if that is the case, then what you can do? Proving the partition, it will hold. Why it will hold? Because if you say that it's not a partition, the block, if it's not a partition, what does it mean? It means that when you are forming the block, some state P is here, S is here, and Q is intersecting with these, right? So there is an intersection between these two, Q1 and Q2. But it can never happen, because if S is equivalent to Q and Q is also equivalent to P, so S is also equivalent to P. So therefore this whole thing will be a single block and not two different blocks, right? So you will never have a case where you have some elements here that there is a S which is part of the second block but not the first one, and still there is an intersection. So all the blocks will be complete disjoint. There is no intersection between the blocks. And if there is an intersection, you can always prove that the intersecting element is equivalent to both of these. So that will, because of the transitive property, every element here is also equivalent to here. So actually you can form a bigger block. So you can form a single block for it. So by using that property, what is said that the algorithm that we follow here, it says that you take the states of the DFA, basically Q, and you divide it into blocks, right? So how you going to divide it into blocks? You start picking from the first element Q1 and you take basically all the equivalent states of this, of Q1, and you put them in a set, all equivalent with transitive and non-transitive, all, and anyway because of transitivity you will get all. So all the equivalent to E you put in one block, then for the second state you find the same thing, and likewise for every element you find. Now you will realize that if this block is here, if there is a Q2 or Qi present here, for the EQi again you gonna get the same block. So there is a repetitiveness, right? So you gonna just pick it one time, you're not gonna repeat it for every state. So for every state you find the equivalence, all the equivalence, and you put it in a block. There is a repetition, so discard the repetition. Finally you will end up having just the blocks, unique blocks, that is forming a partition. Is that clear? That we are forming a partition based on this mechanism of blocks. If that is clear, then what we need to do, so here we said that this is the way. So when you try to find it, actually apply, what will happen? For state A you don't have any equivalence, so A is the alone block. B again the same thing, it is not equivalent. C, when you try to compute for C, you will get C and E both are equivalent, so that is one block. D and F are another block. When you will come to E, you will get the same block, and for F you get the same block, and finally G. So you got 5 blocks, correct? Now, so the minimized DFA algorithm says that after finding this partition block, you create a state for each of these blocks. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna find, okay, this is my A, this is my B, this is my C and E in a single block as a state, this is my D and F, and finally G. Correct? So 5 states. Each block is representing a state. So we already got our Q for the minimized DFA, number of possible states. What is the next thing? The start state. Okay, before finding the transition, let us fix the other things. The start state will be the same state which was the start state for the original DFA, right? So start state, so basically the block containing the start state will be the start state of the minimized DFA. So what was the start state? A. So therefore here A will be the start state. So your Q0 for this minimized machine is A. Now next is, what is the final state? Correct. So if what I am saying that the block that contains the start state will be the start state, right? So there might have been other states here in the block in the equivalent sense. It is okay. You should make still that as a start state. Same with final states. All the states which has at least one final state becomes a final state, and in that case D and F, I think they were final state. So here also D and F becomes final, and G. But see, one is interesting thing is that when you have one state in a block as a final state, all states in that block will be final state, right? You will never have a case that a block has a final and non-final, because why? They are distinguishable, so they can never be equivalent to each other. So therefore, when I am saying that any block that contains final states, that becomes final. So DF is one final state on the minimized, G is another final. Okay, we got F as two states, one is G, the other one is D and F. Okay, now three things are done. Sigma I think is already known as 0, 1. So what is the last one? The delta. Delta is again very trivial, right? It says that given a block S for 0, you see that for each of the elements, or you can see any of the, right, any of the, you can pick any state from S, and for this wherever you are going for 0, you see if it is going to Q, you have to see in whichever block T it belongs. As of now, you establish that delta of S comma 0 will be T. So S and T are blocks representing. So S at 0, you pick any element of S and see at 0 where is it going, and to whichever set it is going, the block, that element, if Q is part of some other block, that is where it will happen. Why it will always be sure for any of the elements in S? It might be possible, you might be thinking that, okay, there might be some R and S belonging to the first block, such that when you take 0, it goes to R dash, this goes to S dash, and they are in different blocks, correct? That R dash is in a different block, S dash is in a different block. But can it happen? Can you have some pair of states in a block such that when you take it for some element, it goes to two different blocks? The answer is no. Why? Because if it, for a given symbol, it goes to two different blocks, what does it mean? Because every block, the states pair wise are distinguishable from each other, right? That's why they are kept apart. There is no two blocks sharing any state, or they are equivalent to each other. So that means if it is going to R dash, S dash, they are distinguishable within themselves, and therefore R and S also will become distinguishable. But you said that R and S are equivalent, therefore it can never happen. So whenever you pick any element, you will go to exactly the same block. So if you go back to the diagram which we drawn here, okay, I think it might be difficult me to really do here and there, but I think if you have already drawn it or at least seen it, let me just help you for few. So A at 0 goes to B, at 1 it goes to C, correct? So A at 0, where should I go? A at 0 it goes to B, so I am going here. A at 1 goes to C, good. Now if you will see in this diagram again back, B at 0 goes to D, at 1 it goes to E, right? So B at 0, if you will try to do that, oh I forgot, B at 0 it goes to D, right? So B at 0 it goes to D, and B at 1 goes to C. Now you can try drawing the other transitions and you realize, for example, let's say for C and E, where does it go? And D and F. I think in this case you have already seen that it goes to the same, but in general it will always happen that if you pick one of them, it exactly goes to the same place where others will take you to the same block. So for let me just complete it for your sake. So C at 0, when you will see, it goes to DF, and C at 1, it goes to G. DF at 0, it remains the same, because D at 0 was remaining there, F at 0 is also going to D. So still you see that it goes to the same block. G, and at 1 D and F, they will be going to CE. And DF at G at 0, it will go to DF. At 1, it will remain at the same place. Done. This is what you achieved, a minimized DFA. You started with 7-state DFA, and this is a DFA, and the language is certainly same. Right. Why the language is certainly same? Okay, that you think. Okay, now see, you can always use this table filling algorithm for another thing. If you are given two machines D1 and D2, right? So there are two DFAs given to you, D1 and D2. This is the start state for this machine Q1, and this is the start state for Q2. If you want to check the equivalence between two DFAs, you just assume that this is a single machine. Start state is having no role in table filling algorithm, right? We don't consider, we only care about the final states. So you forget about the start state and consider all the states and transitions as whatever is given. Now for this whole system, you run the table filling algorithm together. If you are able to find that Q1, Q2 are actually not distinguishable, what does it mean? They are equivalent. Then it says that language of D1 is same as language of D2. Why? Because if you are able to prove that Q1 and Q2 are equivalent, that means they go together for any given string W part of sigma, they both accept together, they both reject together. And that's what you want for equivalence, right? So to check whether two machines are same or equivalent, this is the simplest thing. So if you write a machine and you say, sir, whether my machine is correct or not, what I can do, I can guarantee that I have designed a correct machine, and then I just have to do the equivalence check. So that is another usage of this. Now one concept may be coming that, okay, there was a DFA D, you applied the table filling algorithm and minimization, and you got a D2. Can this D2 be again applied table filling and minimization and give a better answer? The answer is no, because already all the states are distinguishable to each other, so they cannot be further merged. Correct? They cannot be further merged to each other. So that is, using this kind of approach, this is the best you can get. So you cannot design anything further, better, smaller than that. But there is a possibility, right? Someone can come and say that, okay, I have a machine N, I have designed another DFA which is better than D2. The language of D2 and language of N is same, but what happens? Number of states in N is smaller than number of states in D2. One can claim that I can design a better DFA, although you are not able to find using this. Whatever DFA you took, minimization doesn't give you the smallest. So to prove that this minimization algorithm gives you the smallest, you have to prove that this D2 cannot be beaten by any designing process. How to do that? Prove by contradiction. Again you say that, okay, there exists N. There exists such n that you are claiming that the language is equivalent, but yet the number of states are lesser than the number of states in D2. Then what? If that is the case, what you can do, take your machine N, take your machine D and do what? This is the start state of this machine, this is the start state of this machine. You do the same thing that we just talked on the last page. You run the table filling algorithm for this. Once you run the table filling algorithm for these two machines together, what you gonna see? Certainly you will realize that tuple Qn and Qd are equivalent. Correct? Is it clear or not? Because the languages are same, so they cannot be distinguishable. Now when you pick for any 0 where you are going some state, at 0 where you are going, they are also what? Equivalent. Is it clear? That from both, if you go at 0, this is equivalent to this one. Similarly at 1 wherever you are going, this is equivalent to this one. So for any string W, wherever you are going, you have an equivalent state here. Correct? This all is going to tell you that whenever you take a string and you are reaching after delta cap from Q0, wherever you are reaching, it is always equivalent to some state here. Correct? If it is not equivalent, then there is a problem. If it is after some W, it is going to a state R, and it is after some W going to S, and which are distinguishable, these become distinguishable. So always for some state on N, you have a state on D which is equivalent. Do you agree? For every state on N, you have some state on D which is equivalent. Anyone has any doubt in that? Now if that is the claim, then you already said that Qn is smaller than Qd, and this is the first thing as per the assumption. Second thing is that every state of N has an equivalent state on D also, for sure. Therefore, if you use the pigeonhole principle, you can always find that there exist at least two states on Qd which are equivalent to the same state on Qn. Yes or no? Because every state on Qn has equivalent state on Qd, but the number of states on Qn n is lesser than the number of states on D. That means there exist at least two states on machine D which are equivalent to the same state on N. But can it happen? Can it happen because D is output after the table filling algorithm. So can you find two states on D2 which are equivalent? No, and therefore it's a contradiction. You can never find two equivalent states on D2, because if two states are on D2, some x and y which are equivalent to some z, they are equivalent to each other also, right, using the transitivity. And therefore if they are equivalent to each other, as per the construction of D2, they cannot be equivalent, and therefore you have a contradiction. So that proves that your assumption that you can design such a machine, the answer is no, you cannot design. This is the smallest that you can get. Okay, that's all for regular languages. I think we have covered all the topics and everything part of it. I think you should do, yes, there is something that you need to read, is called algebraic properties of regular expression. Properties of regular expressions, that I haven't taught, but you should go back and read. Another thing that I haven't covered actually is basically there was some membership property we were talking about, right? So when we talked about the closure properties, then we returned back and we talked about some decision properties, out of which there was one as membership property, the other one is emptiness property, because we started with infiniteness and then we went to pumping lemma and we left it. Equivalence property, and then containment. What is the membership property? It is a simple set membership problem that given a language L and some string W part of sigma, asking the question whether W belongs to L. Can you find it? Can you solve this for regular languages? The answer is yes. Always you can solve, because whenever you have a language L which is regular, you can design a DFA, and as soon as you are able to design a DFA for this language, then the job becomes very simple to test whether the string is part of L or not, because simulating on the DFA string is very easy. And because the language is regular, you can always design a DFA. So yes, membership property can always be solved by simulating the string on corresponding DFA. What about emptiness property? It is that L equals to 5. The emptiness property is something very simple. You just have to say that design a DFA for this L, and in the DFA run a BFS or DFS from the start state. If you are able to mark any of the final states, you say the language is not 5. Why? Because if you are starting from the start state and you are actually doing a BFS or DFS, that means there is a path from start state to final state, if you are able to mark one of the final states. So there is some string that takes you from start to final, maybe epsilon itself, right? Maybe the start state is a final state itself. But to make a language empty, its DFA can never reach from start state to final state. Whatever it does, but none of the paths reach to final state. So you can do, if language is given, you can design a DFA for it, and finally you can run the BFS or DFS. What about equivalence property and containment? Equivalence is, I think you already understood, one way you can do it by table filling algorithm, that for both of the languages that are given L1 and L2, you design DFA and then try equivalence between them. Or the second way to do is design for L1, D1 and D2, and you do the product automaton, right? Then what you do, find the product automaton and set the final state such that it is actually the symmetric difference of something. Symmetric difference of what? What do you need to find? Equivalence property. Equivalence means you don't have any extra string on any of the languages, right? So you have to find the symmetric difference between the final set. So you have set the F such that it accepts only those strings which is part of one but not the other. How you gonna make sure? You're gonna make sure to design this F in a way that only one of the tuple can be final, not both. So certainly you have to take Q1 cross F2, right, union F1 cross Q2. This is what used to give you union. Out of union you have to deduct the intersection which is F1 cross F2, right. So these tuples, you have to deduct these tuples, that's what you are gonna get, and that will make sure that it is. And yes, now once you get this product automaton, you have to check for the emptiness, if it is representing an empty language or not. If the product automaton that you get by doing this is empty, what does it mean? That there is no such a string that is on exactly one machine accepted but not on the other one, and therefore the language is equal. What about the containment? Containment is again very simple. You have to use the product automaton. You can use here. You have to set the set f in the respective way. So I think that is you can figure it out. So that's all about DFA, regular languages. We started with regular languages. We talked about DFA, NFA, ENFA. They are all equal. Then we discussed about properties of regular languages, because regular languages are the set that represents all these machines. In properties, we talked about closure properties. We learnt about decision properties, and in closure properties we saw that all the regular operations we do, regular languages are closed under that. And then we talked about the decision properties. So we came to infiniteness problem. We saw that if a language is infinite, so it may or may not be regular, and to prove that a language is not regular, we use pumping lemma. After the pumping lemma, then we came to regular expressions. It is another way to represent regular languages, and then we said that it also exactly represents the same set of regular languages, because for every regular language expression you can construct a DFA, and for every DFA you can construct an equivalent regular expression. And today we talked about DFA and minimization. So this is all that is there for the regular